This video was brought to you by Squarespace. I gotta wash my arms. Hello, my friends. It is time for another special Nintendo Direct themed episode of Spicy Take Salad. I'm gonna be going over some of your controversial opinions about the June 2024 Nintendo Direct. I do now. Thank you. Yes, let's go. I'm disappointed that Metroid Prime 4 seems to be about a guy named Sylux because I don't know who that is, and I don't care. I didn't play Hunters or Federation Force. Okay, so I definitely get where you're coming from. Absolutely. Clearly this guy is a guy, and, you know, people are all talking about it. They're all shocked that he's there. They're making videos and everything. Here's the thing, though. I got good news for you. It does not matter at all. We don't even know who the guy is. Sylux was in Hunters, sure, I played it ages ago, and I don't even really remember what his whole entire deal was. I mostly just know him because he's teased in Metroid Prime 3, and he's teased in Federation Force, but it really does not go too far beyond that, beyond just the teases. The significance in him being the villain here is less that it's him and he is important in some way, and more just the fact that the villain that was teased all those years ago is still the villain. You know, this game has been so long in coming that they had every reason to kind of reboot it, kind of rethink it, maybe even retcon some previous element. Just, you know, it happens a lot when you're making a new entry in a game series that is very old. They could have taken a totally new direction with it. They could have given us a new villain, but it really says something about the integrity of the series and of the story that they always knew that the continuation of the story would involve Sylux, and even after all this time, it's still Sylux because that's the idea that they had. It's kind of like Metroid Dread. We thought Dread was gone forever, but no, apparently it was like, no, the next time we do a 2D Metroid, it's going to be Dread, even if it takes us decades. So really don't worry about it. There's really not that much going on with the character, and like I said, I barely even remember what his whole thing is, so it's not gonna matter. It's not gonna matter at all. Marvel vs. Capcom Arcade Collections reveal was super underwhelming and did not fit in a direct showcase. This is such a hype announcement, and yet it was presented as if it's not a big deal and just another retro collection. You are definitely not necessarily wrong here. You're really not. I definitely get you. To the right person, this was, without a doubt, the best part of the entire showcase. This was a humongous deal for fighting fans. But it's tricky because to anyone else outside of that fan base, they're really not gonna get it at all, and they might be kind of confused. If it was presented as like this big, huge thing, it could be that Nintendo or Capcom or whoever, maybe they worked on it together, maybe they just were like, all right, most of the people watching this aren't really gonna get it, so maybe we shouldn't treat it like a big deal, shouldn't tailor to them. That could be the reasoning, but at the same time, like, it is totally true. I'm imagining a scenario where they finally gave us a Metroid Prime 4 trailer, and it was just kind of like this little thing that just kind of cropped up in the middle. You know, it was given like 45 seconds and just like, okay, whatever, moving on. Like that would have been weird to me. So even if it would have gone over a lot of people's heads, it probably would have been worth it to give it a little more fanfare. You know, I think that would have been warranted. You're completely right that like I didn't know anything about this game, so it really did look like just another retro collection. You know, retro collections are cool, but like they're kind of a dime a dozen, aren't they? They really did not communicate how important this was. Oh, I missed this part. Made the live reactions more funny though. No, you definitely got that right. Those were quite entertaining.
Upside scroller the Punisher and more.
I'm not 100% sold on the new Zelda game. I think it'll be the same case as Princess Peach Showtime, where it gets babied because it's for girls. Okay, I definitely did not want to bring up like the whole Echoes of Wisdom thing here, like that in itself. There's a lot of opinions going around. I myself have given many opinions that have gotten people weirdly defensive. I still don't really understand it, but whatever, not the point. But I do want to address this idea right here, that it might be the same case as Princess Peach Showtime, where it gets babied because it's for girls. It is a little bit of a weird and kind of nuanced topic. Like there, as you might have seen in my review, there was a part of me that did kind of feel like, why did the Peach game have to be the one that was super easy? Is it because it's starring a girl and it's for girls and all? It really is a bigger discussion. So I don't exactly know the answer there, but I do not see, if that is what happened, even if you could claim that that is what happened to Peach, I don't see that happening here. I don't see anything being dumbed down. If anything, this game has the potential to end up being kind of more complex and open-ended than a regular Zelda game, in the same way that like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom are like infinitely more complex and a little bit harder to pick up and master than most previous Zelda games. So this one right here, I do not see an excessive amount of like dumbing down of simplicity. I simply see it as very different. It is definitely a different take on Zelda, and clearly they, I guess they just wanted to do something different. I don't know if it's because it's starring Zelda or if it's just because they've been working on these other 3D games and now they finally returned to 2D and now they want to do something different. They want to take some of those design philosophies over, but I don't think it looks babied. I don't think it looks like it's for girls or whatever. I in this case really just don't think you can draw that comparison between the two games. I'm just not seeing it. Metroid Prime 4 could have potentially had a better chance of turning the franchise more mainstream as a launch title for the next console. This is clearly a topic that I have spent many of my hours here on this earth pondering. Would Metroid Prime 4 be better suited as a launch or even launch window title for the next system to be, a big, huge graphical showcase? And of course, the launch titles for a system generally do pretty well because you have, fewer people own the system. The install base is only just beginning to grow, and yet all of these people are really desperate for games to play because the library is so small that can put a lot of eyes on a game. A game can get an unusual amount of like publicity and success simply because it is a launch title. But is Metroid Prime 4 better launching on the previous system? If by the end of its life it's sold 160 million units, the install base is so massive, so many people have access to this game, is that actually going to get the series a lot more exposure? If it ends up being a cross-gen title, could that be the best of both worlds? Or if it ends up being a Switch title, but it has some sort of next-gen upgrade performance patch on Switch 2, is that also pretty good? Or would it be absolute best as a big, fancy graphical showcase Switch 2 exclusive? My gut says probably that one. You're probably right. I can't help but feel that, yes, as just a brand new Switch 2 exclusive, super pretty graphics and all that stuff, I think that might get more eyes on it early on and make a bigger splash. I think that might ultimately be better for the mainstreamification of the series. At the same time, you really can't ignore that humongous Switch install base, so I don't know. I've spent so many hours pondering this, and I don't think today is the day I'm gonna stop. Pause, please. Quick reminder that this video was brought to you by Squarespace. I needed to build my website, Arlo Recommends, a website dedicated to recommending things that I think are cool to people. Well, Squarespace made it ridiculously easy. I picked a template, I messed around with it a little bit, and before I knew it, I had a super slick, cool looking website. The intuitive editor lets me do anything I want with my site. Creating content is super duper easy. Formatting, embedding, it's all so simple. I can put a bunch of posts together, then schedule them to publish and push to social media automatically, so it feels like my site runs itself and I barely gotta do any work. If I ever need more, Squarespace offers a bunch of super powerful extensions and a really nice suite of analytics, which I bring up every time because you know what, I just think it's really cool. To try out Squarespace for yourself, head to squarespace.com for a free trial. Then when you're ready to launch, head to squarespace.com/Arlo to save 10% off your first website or domain. And now, for today's recommendation, Zay Frank. His True Fact series is not kid-friendly and it's very silly, but I'm not kidding. These videos feature the most unbelievable, mind-blowing, how have I never heard this before facts that have completely changed how I think of many common animals. It's somehow more informative than any nature documentary I've ever watched. Thanks again to Squarespace. Unpause. I think that Mario and Luigi Brothership looks fantastic, but there is almost no doubt in my mind that it's going to bomb commercially. I think it was a horrible decision to release 3 Mario RPGs over the span of 3 years, as opposed to spreading them evenly throughout the Switch's life. I think you mean 1 year. Yeah, I definitely see where you're coming from on this. Like, this situation is, without a doubt, very weird. Even from like a business perspective, it's weird. There is indeed a chance that the audience might get Mario RPG fatigue, and it could be that these some of these games are gonna cannibalize the sales of the other games. That is 3 very similar titles in the span of a single year, and it's very, very strange. I do agree that just kind of objectively speaking, it probably would have made more sense to spread things out a little bit more so people don't get tired of it. At the same time, I don't think that that necessarily means the game is going to bomb commercially. I think that might be taking it a little bit too far. It could be that the results of this are a little bit more subtle, or there might not be any cannibalization at all. Thousand Year Door is selling almost identically to Mario RPG Remake, which is selling almost identically to Origami King. It could just be that right there, you have that like about 3 million mark, and that is your Mario RPG market. And I've said this before, it might not even matter what you give them. Those 3 million people will show up every time. All of these games, even Mario RPG and Thousand Year Door, released very close to each other. They're selling about the same. We don't have solid numbers on Thousand Year Door yet, obviously, but like, it's tracking about the same. If it sells 3 million and then Mario and Luigi sells 3 million, then there you go. Apparently you literally cannot have too many Mario RPGs because the fans will just buy it no matter what. And you also have to consider that Mario & Luigi, at the very least, is a brand new game. It has that going for it. You don't have the whole thing where, you know, there's a good chunk of the crowd who's not gonna buy a remake because they don't wanna. They've got the original game, they've played it already. This is brand new. So I don't think it's likely that it's gonna like dramatically flop, just like bomb super hard. Mario & Luigi games are done forever. But I do feel ya. I do think that it is a little weird that they released all these games all together. I still like it. As a fan, I'm still happy. But it is weird, and I really hope that it doesn't have a negative effect on the sales. Prime 4's impressive visuals would have hit harder if we saw it before the remaster. We got Metroid Prime Remastered too early, considering Prime 4 is still a year away. It should have been Prime 4 trailer, then remaster announcement / shadow drop to hold us over until 2025. Definitely feel ya on this one. I do think that you are probably right. Prime Remastered really, it really broke the ice on this idea of like modern, amazing looking Metroid Prime. It really raised the bar ridiculously high. Like I think Prime Remastered is probably the best looking game on the Switch. And it's completely true that if we did not have that, we would be way more blown away with Prime 4's graphics. It's another thing, I don't want to like go into the whole thing right now, but you do have a weird amount of people saying that they're not impressed with how Prime 4 looks, and it really does seem like a lot of it comes down to the fact that we got Prime Remastered, and Prime 4 doesn't really look that much better, but I didn't expect it to look I didn't expect it to look any better if it was just going to be on the Switch, because Prime Remastered already looks magically impossibly good, but it raised that bar, and I guess people were expecting more, even though I don't think more is possible on the Switch. I'm surprised that we are even getting this on the Switch. However, while I do think that you are right in that way, I don't necessarily believe that it's a big deal. You know, I think that this is kind of, it's led to some less than stellar reactions to the reveal, but I think that future trailers are going to show off even more. There's going to be a lot more to be excited about. So I don't know if this is necessarily going to end up translating into like lost sales or anything in the long run. It kind of changes this conversation that we're having about the game right now, but I think that's a pretty fleeting thing. It's not going to last forever. So ultimately, I don't know if it was actually important enough to delay Prime Remastered all the way until like late this year or early next year or something. I'm kind of glad that we've had access to it this whole time. I think that is probably worth it. One more Metroid one. The Metroid Prime 4 reveal was weak. The environment was empty and had very little going on. The vertical slice shown is almost definitely not going to be in the main game, as it looks very barren and scripted. It looks like a bad tech demo. Okay, this is another example, like Zelda, where there are a lot of opinions going around about this game, and I don't want to get into all of them right now, but I do want to address this one thing right here. This idea that the trailer was like really underwhelming because it just didn't really show off a lot. I absolutely cannot agree with this. I think this is even a little bit ridiculous. This is going to be in the game. This is not just a lame vertical slice. That you are completely misinterpreting what we just saw. What we just saw in the trailer is the opening of the game. You can tell this is the moment that Samus gets to the planet and then just kind of like she rolls through a couple little scripted scenarios. It's literally the tutorial. We see the same thing in the other Prime games. This is the first moments, literally the first moments of the game. If you don't count the final part of the trailer where it overlooks the whole beautiful like forest place, if you're just looking at the rest, I would not be surprised if it all takes place in the first 5 minutes of the experience. Probably like meeting Sylux will be like at the end of this little tutorial area. But like, no, we're talking the first moments with the game, and that's gonna be the most basic stuff. It's literally teaching the player how to move, how to shoot, how to scan. That's not gonna be very exciting. We just need to give it some time. I promise you, I bet you $100,000 million the next trailer is gonna be a lot more exciting. If this were a tech demo, I would agree that it was a bad tech demo, because if it's a tech demo, you want to show off more of what the game can do. But this wasn't meant to show off everything the game can do. This was the opening moments of the game. It was just to show us that the game is real. Here's some actual gameplay. You can see that it more or less controls like a Metroid Prime game. Here's a look at some of the graphics. Here's a look at some of the themes, just kind of touching on the story and then teasing a little bit more right at the end. So to kind of, I don't know, to summarize my point here, give it a minute. Give it a minute. Give them a minute to give us another trailer. I promise you'll be singing a different tune next time. Not calling Echoes of Wisdom The Legend of Link was a missed opportunity. Okay, we've all been seeing this a whole lot. We have seen sentiments like this a ton since the reveal. I'd say the most common is probably saying that if it's, usually it stars Link, but it's called Zelda. If it stars Zelda, it should be called Link, The Legend of Link. But then you'll also see some people, it could be The Missing Link because Link is missing. And I don't know how serious these are. I don't even know if this is actually worth getting into here. People may just be joking whenever they say it, but just in case they're not, just in case there is anyone who actually does believe that it should be called The Legend of Link or some sort of name that has Link in it, I just want to say I do not agree. I do not agree in the slightest. I think it's funny. It's a funny idea, but you don't title your game based on a funny, you don't give it a funny name. It's not a funny game. You also just don't want it to be confusing. That's just confusing. Calling it The Legend of Link, it messes with the SEO. You gotta consider the SEO here. It's important stuff. As a YouTuber, I know. The game stars Zelda, but it's still a Zelda game. It still takes place in the Zelda universe and uses a lot of the same concepts and characters and stuff. So, no. And then like Echoes of Wisdom, like that, like that's it right there. That's your tie to Zelda, the whole wisdom thing. I think that is a perfectly good name, and I would not I wouldn't mess with it. I don't think that's worth it. Well, that's it for this episode of Spicy Take Salad. Many thanks to the literally 1,200 people who gave their opinions. I am dearly sorry I was only able to choose 8. And here's a spicy take for you. Zelda's coming for you. She's coming for you. She's gonna get you. You cannot run. And Samus is coming for you too, buddy. I'm sorry to tell you.